Roman Travers on Magic Talk.
So, everybody who knows the program throughout the weekends will be very familiar with Tanya Unkovic, who's with me here this morning in the studio. Tanya is, what would you call yourself, a life coach?
I am a life coach or a resilience coach.
I like that. That's a word that's been thrashed around a lot too, being resilient. And what a year for that. If you've got questions for Tanya about concerns that you have, issues that you're going through, Tanya can clearly help you outside of the radio hours, but she's very happy to have a chat with you now. 0800 844 747. Happy New Year-ish, by the way. What do you say at this? It's a tricky day, isn't it?
Goodbye 2020. Getting ready for 2021.
I know. Tell me about your year. How's it been for you?
It's actually been okay, I have to say. I think the toughest thing for me personally, as many people know, is my parents are ageing. So that's been quite a journey, having two elderly parents really go downhill and not being able to be together because they're in separate rest homes during COVID, etc., etc. So that's been a tough one for me. Everything else has actually been okay. I have to be honest and say that it's been okay. Second lockdown wasn't a lot of fun, was it? No. Kind of brought up a few things and, well, here we go, feeling out of control. Don't you tell me what to do kind of stuff coming up.
I know. And that's interesting in that I think New Zealand has been remarkably compliant, and I think it's a word that quite suits because I don't think obedience is the right word. We complied because we could see the end game. We could see what we were trying to achieve, unlike countries like Sweden, other countries around the world that have dabbled, like Australia, dabbled with lockdowns. We got it right from the start. And although that was really tough, did you have many people coming to you with relationship issues? Because some people learnt that they hated each other, basically, didn't they?
Yes. Relationship issues, actually boredom too. People didn't know what to do with themselves. But of course, I must admit, have some clients say, actually, lockdown's been really good for us. And they were able to be together and just go back to the simple things and actually even talk to one another. So they were able to create a different level of intimacy outside the norm, you know. But yes, I did have a few people saying, oh my God, I can't stand the way he does this, or I can't stand what she says to me, you know. So there's a mixed bag. But what an opportunity for us to fix it, though, right?
And what a confronting time for people who didn't realise how much their partner drank or smoked or whatever, and that it became a time when you were locked down with someone perhaps that you'd rather not be with in a lockdown situation. So quite revealing on that front. If you've got some comments to make, feel free to fire up your phone and call us 0800 844 747, the text 3920. It was the year that no one predicted. What are some of the lessons that were learned by you and by others?
Get comfortable with the discomfort. So many of us went into this place of uncertainty and fear because of what was going on with COVID. And what a good opportunity to get comfortable with uncertainty. If you can have this certainty in yourself, knowing that no matter what happens in your world, that you've got this, then that will go into every other area of your life. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And so many people saw actually how resilient they really were this year. And they thought, okay, I can't let this get me down. I'm just going to dig deep and step up and face this.
I've noticed, and you would have noticed this too, no doubt, the people that are, I think control freak is a horrible term, but it's quite true. People who love to control everything, including the dog, the people that work for them, everything, the remote control on the tally. And then all of a sudden there was this feeling of being out of control, wasn't there?
Especially being told that you can't do things, you can't go outside, you can't do the shops and that. That actually brought up quite a lot of anger in a way with people, right? So when you have this feeling of out of control, then you start to soothe yourself. You start to soothe yourself, whether it be food, alcohol, online shopping, even anger, because you're not used to being told what to do or feeling out of control. So it did bring up a lot of inner stuff for people.
Boredom, being overwhelmed because of that daily update, the news, it was all quite frightening, not just for elderly people or people on their own. I think everyone felt some level of being overwhelmed and anxiety too, right?
Yeah, absolutely, because we don't know where it's going to go. We started to get this fear, didn't we, of, oh my God, what if I get it? What if I get it? But in a way, that's taking control away from your own belief in yourself, right? It's like, come back and take responsibility for your own health and things like that, instead of expecting others in a way to give you that certainty.
Yeah, that's a fair point too. What I did notice was I became acutely aware of whining and whinging, and I've been quite open here about whining and whinging about, another WebEx meeting. When I didn't lose my real job, I've maintained the real job. I was very fortunate to work for a company that didn't make any redundancies during that time, and yet people started complaining about internet speed or not being able to get coffee from a cafe, and then you had people losing jobs, relationships, businesses, really heavy-duty losses.
You know, one of the things about being resilient is actually being grateful. And those people who are very, very resilient are those who know how to focus on what is good in their life. Even in the midst of a pandemic, focus on what is good. And if you can do that every single day, that is what will make you stronger and stronger. And start building that habit of looking at what is great in this, what is good about this, and repeating it every single day.
Yeah, actually something that I was talking about earlier on this morning, the power of placebo in a medical trial. There's always a proportion of patients who aren't receiving a treatment who do better because of the power of the mind. How does that apply to this? There's nothing worse than someone, and I'm sorry to pick on you, but there's nothing wrong with what you're saying, but when someone says to me, think of the blessings, think of the good things you have, you feel like,
You want to slap them sometimes,
well, I do,
right?
actually. I wouldn't slap you, of course, but,
No. You might get a left hook back.
That's right. Yeah.
What's the alternative, though? If we don't look at what is good, the alternative is to go to the other side and suffer and be angry. And that is just going to fuel more and more belief that everything is rubbish in your life. We can either choose good or bad. Which way do you want to go? And that's the way I look at it. It's like sometimes I even have to pretend that, everything is great. Oh, things are tough. But actually, no, Tanya, focus on what is good. Focus on your blessings, because I know the alternative could lead to a spiral. I've been there before, and I don't want to go there again.
No.
So always remember how bad it can feel, and always remember how good you can feel, and just focus on where you want to go.
So something I think a lot of people would have struggled with is that, I haven't lost anything. I'm actually okay. I've got through this financially, whatever the cases are, throughout COVID-19, throughout lockdown. And then you've got friends and family who have been affected hugely. And it's that, I can't gloat. I don't really know how to help you. But how do you deal with that when you've got friends and family whose position in life has changed demonstrably and yours hasn't?
Sometimes what they need is someone who will listen to them. And just give them your time and be as patient and be as caring as you can. I'll never forget reading a book by someone who lost everything to Bernie Madoff in the US. And the best line that her friend gave her was, "Nothing of value has been lost." And I've never forgotten that. And, some people have lost lives and, we have to go, oh my God, actually, I haven't lost my life. I haven't lost a family member. We sometimes actually need to think like that. But you do have to, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, right? You can't just say to someone, no. You've got to really be able to listen to them. Sometimes people just need an ear.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, and that's something I've tried to change with my own children, is that they don't always want your advice when they're in their 20s. They just want you to listen. And it's the same with your friends too, sometimes just being that person who will listen. Taking your calls and listening on 0800 844 747 or the text 3920. Back in a moment with Tanya Unkovic here on Magic Talk. Welcome to the last day of the year. It's nice to have your company here. I have been saying that after 10, I'll be having tea and cake with Barbara, the life of early Caucasian settlers in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Of course, after 10, I won't be here. It'll be Oscar Jackson taking you through for his first talkback show ever. So we're going to bring morning tea forward. At about 25 to 10, I'll be joined by Barbara for our history lessons and all those really fantastic stories.
Roman Travers on Magic Talk.
At the moment, Tanya Unkovic in the studio with me, life coach who is available. You can find her on social media and connect with her to get your life back on track. Tanya, let's just talk about lessons learned in this year and how we change and move forward into 2021 to make good positive changes?
Well, many people talk about 2020 being so tough. Can't we wait to see the back end of it and etc. I'm going to invite you to go, well, what were some of the things that you learned? What were the lessons you learned? Think about the areas of your life where you built resilience. Think about areas in your personal life where you felt really strong, where you know that you've advanced and lived to a higher standard. And take those qualities and start planning for what you want for 2021, what you want for the rest of your life.
Is it people around you that often quite cruelly and bluntly will just tell you that you're being a prat or whatever and you kind of brush it away? Is it better to hear that from someone else like yourself? I mean, how do you confront someone's, I don't want to use the word stupidity, but if someone's obviously being a prat, how do you deal with that and tell them you need to change this aspect?
Well, I always come back with the question, well, how's that working for you? And then they see it themselves. So the important thing is to turn it around and let people see that way they're behaving is actually dealing with things. So let them see it themselves. Let them kind of take them into a mirror and let them see what's really going on.
Yeah.
That it starts within.
Do you think it's fair to say that most of us behave quite differently with our work colleagues to our friends and family at home? We put on a different face, don't we?
Yeah.
Does the real you always shine through eventually, or can you really hide that?
When you're under pressure, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really does. That's why I always say, just be you.
Yeah.
Just be you. If people don't like you, then, well, they're not your person.
It's a good lesson to learn, and we've heard several people throughout the last few days talking about the positive changes they want to put into place for the new year. One of them being learning, excuse me, it's hay fever, sorry, that's terrible, is learning to say no instead of saying yes to everybody, because, man, that can be exhausting, can't it?
And, sometimes saying no to someone else means saying yes to you, because what we do is we try and people please, we try and do everything for everyone else, but we do it resentfully. Yeah. And then we moan about it and go, oh, God, I'm always doing everything for everyone else. And we get into that victim mode. So start saying yes to you, and it may mean saying no to other people, but it will be good for them. And if they're brassed off with you, then actually maybe they're not someone you want around you all the time. You know?
That's right. Well, just to that point, there's a text that's just come in saying, it just says, I'm grateful I got rid of my horrible job and my wife. Well, there's someone who's clearly happy about some significant changes.
Yeah.
This is really sad. Paul has texted in on 3920. Hi there. I lost my mum unexpectedly a month ago, and it would have been her 72nd birthday last week on the 23rd. It's been the hardest month of my life, and despite having a close-knit and supportive family, I find myself going to very dark places as I struggle to cope with the loss of his mum. Any suggestions for digging myself out of the depths I often find myself in? Cheers, Paul.
Oh, Paul, I'm really sorry for your loss. Take one day at a time, Paul, and, having gone through that grieving process myself, one day at a time was how I did it. And you take one step in front of the other. You take care of your own physical and emotional health. Whatever you do, speak up and reach out, because someone will listen to you. Google me, find me, Paul, if you need to chat. Whatever you do, don't isolate. Don't stay there on your own. Grief is something we all have to face at some stage in our lives. And it's not nice, but it is part of life, and you can come through it.
Yeah, really sound advice there. How do people find you, Tanya?
You can go to my website, tanyarankovic.com. I'm all over social media, so just Google me, you'll find me.
So how do you protect yourself as someone who's dealing with people's really tough issues all of the time, and someone who yourself, you can go into this if you want to, you've dealt with some pretty serious stuff in your life, haven't you?
I've had lots of, I'm not going to use the word challenges, opportunities for me to really strengthen myself. And as I shared with you before, eating issues from a teenage year, that was one of the hardest things I've had to overcome. And it's a very common problem that's out there. So I had that. I had the grief of infertility, the grief of losing my husband at 40 to cancer, and then having to redefine myself and my life in my 40s and find out who am I again. And that didn't happen without a lot of mistakes, bad judgment, ups and downs. 16 years later now, I'm feeling great. I help other people. In order to do that, though, I have to invest a lot of time in myself and in my own self-care, my own mental health. I need to be able to show up for people 100% if they're coming to me. So I take care of myself a lot, physically, emotionally, intellectually. I make sure that I feed myself in every possible way. I do it for me because I want to live a good life. I know what the pits of darkness feels like. I never want to go there again. And I see how precious life is. I always say that I saw how hard Phil fought for every breath, and I never want to not respect life and not respect the preciousness of it. So I've got that as a driver.
Is that what makes you a better life coach than somebody who hasn't lived through some pretty heavy stuff?
Well, my life experience actually is, I feel, what makes me better. I've got the education there behind me in the letters, but actually it's my life experience and me being ready and willing to face whatever it is that I'm faced with. So to go through that darkness, as Winston Churchill says, if it feels like you're going through hell, then just keep going, because you do come out the other end.
The other thing too, that another great leader of the world who turned out not to be great, Adolf Hitler, said if you tell a bad enough lie often enough, people will believe it. Is that something that we do to ourselves? We convince ourselves of a truth that's not the truth, and we try and get people to buy into that. Is that a way of hiding, I don't know, or dealing with reality somehow?
It's hiding from who you really are. You know, as human beings, we've all got this need to be loved and to be liked, but so many of us carry this belief that I'm not enough. And in order to prove that we are enough, we'll do anything to show the world that we are enough, even bad things, even people who blow up things. They do that for significance, like me, you know, because they know they're going to be talked about and that. So people will do anything to feel significant, to feel that they are enough in the world. Everything starts within. I always invite everyone, keep going within, keep liking who you are. And when you do that, then the world will actually be a lot nicer.
Do you often have to deal with teenagers? Have you come across teenagers and self-harming, which is something which I think it shocks everybody when they're first confronted with that family member who's doing that? That's all about what? A call for attention? What is that about?
Well, that was me one day. You know, it may not have been harming with cutting or anything like that, but I was harming myself with excess food and binging and dieting and binging and all that sort of crazy stuff. Just extreme low self-worth. I'm just not enough. And I also used to compare myself to other people, which a lot of teenagers do, you know, and I would personally not have liked to have been brought up in this day and age with social media. I had the gift of not having that back then. You know, you just had the occasional Clio magazine, right? And you open that up and you go, oh, she's pretty and slim. That was enough to compare yourself to. Imagine what the young kids have to deal with now. I don't specifically work with teenagers, but I'm able to always take myself back into their shoes because I've walked that path myself and had to deal with all that stuff.
Yeah, it's really, really hard. It's really hard to watch people struggling with that, knowing what to do. And I guess the best thing to do as early as possible is to be honest and upfront about it and involve a medical professional or someone like yourself.
Yeah, or even tell a friend. A lot of people keep everything to themselves, and at least a friend may then reach out to a medical person, especially if you are self-harming. Just don't feel ashamed about it. You're not alone. That's the thing. Reach out, put that shame to aside for a minute and speak to someone. You know, I often say to my clients, you know, for this next 30 minutes, you can say whatever you like. It's just me and you and whatever you want to say. We never need to go there again, but if this gives them a safe place to get it out and stop self-harming, then could be the best 30 minutes of their life.
Yeah, well, in the next 30 minutes, in the next few hours, people will be confirming New Year's resolutions, which I don't know if it's a good thing or not. If you were going to make some, what's the best way to keep on track?
Make your reason why so big that nothing will get in the way. When a speed bump comes along, as it will, your reason why you are doing this is that great that it will drive you.
Okay. All right, there we go. Sounds easy. Easier said than done. If you need the help, I would get in touch with Tanya Unkovic here, life coach. Once again, how do people get in touch?
You can find me at my website, tanyaunkovic.com, or just Google my name. I'll pop up everywhere.
It's so lovely of you to come in today. I know it's a big ask because it's not the Sunday Cafe, which you normally would appear on. So thank you, and all the best for the new year.
Yes, you too. You too.